Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Turning Pages, the podcast that celebrates African literature. My name is Vuvu Vena. Today we are in South Africa with return author Angela Makholwa to discuss her sophomore novel, The 30th Candle, which has recently been adapted into a Netflix movie titled Love, Sex and 30 Candles.
The following podcast is a Black Bee Media production.
We are of a folklore heritage. We were conceived in the womb of beautiful words, birthed into a captivating world that we've spent eternity trying to name, tell, retell, and paint. Wrapped and cradled in stories, intsomi namabali. Our words create worlds. They transport, they mirror, they convict, they give lashings and hugs. They create and can never be undone. To hide between the pages of a book is to find pieces of yourself before you even were. Welcome to Turning Pages, the podcast that celebrates African literature from the continent and the diaspora. I'm your host, Vuvu Vena. As a return author, Angela needs no introduction. We caught up with her over a year ago to have this chat, and it gives us great pleasure to congratulate her on this milestone. May it open doors for many more. Hi, Angela, and thank you for joining us once again on Turning Pages.
Thank you for having me.
Today we are discussing your sophomore, which is the 30th Candle, and the interesting things that go on in Linda, Digaledi, Nolwazi, and Sade. It is Sade. Hey, I struggled there. I don't know. Is it Sade? It is Sade.
Sade.
Yes. And Sade. Sorry?
Yeah, it is Sade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Sade's lives. So that's what we'll be focusing on today's episode. So I just want us to talk firstly about the title, right? And what I personally went through when I saw the title. So it was really eye-catching for me because I've always felt like while people make a fuss about many other milestones in your journey of growing up, right? Yes, 30 is among them, but it doesn't quite hit the spot as the fuss that's being made about 18, 21, and even 40, right? So automatically I was curious as to what it is of significance you'd uncover about this specific age. Why, for example, you chose 30 and say not 40?
Okay, so when I wrote 30th Candle, I was turning 30 or I had just turned 30. Mm-hmm. And for me personally, it was a time of, I don't know, like a lot of dissonance. Like I wasn't sure if I was at the place where I thought I would be by the time I turned 30. I was uncertain about things like relationships, my career trajectory. I wasn't sure whether I was doing the right thing, whether I was pursuing the goals that I always had from, when I was younger to my 20s. So it was a time of great uncertainty. And so when I wrote the book, it was like a cathartic kind of process for me. It was about processing the things that concerned me by using the book and those 4 characters and, female friendships as well, which was, again, something that was really helping me to kind of just make sense of my world, because my friends were also going through, they were also turning 30, and some of them were so calm about it, and I didn't understand, how are you this calm? Because I'm losing my mind. I'm thinking, there's just so much that I wasn't uncertain about at that time.
And I do find that it is an age of uncertainty. I think that because for some reason, all of us feel like by that age, we should have figured out so much more. And then you realize how young you are when you actually get to that age. That, come on, honestly, no, you do not know anything. Actually,
what do you need to figure out? I remember when I was writing it, because I was going to book festivals, still promoting Red Ink.
Yes.
And I remember I met this author, Maggie Orford, and she was 40. She had just turned 40 she was just nearing that milestone. And she kept on saying to me, I don't understand why you're freaking out about 30. You're still so young. You still have so much to figure out. Just relax, like this time. And I just thought, this woman is crazy, And it's so funny, as you're saying, like now in retrospect, I'm just thinking, why didn't I just chill and enjoy my life, you know?
Yeah. True. And I think that the older, I feel like even when you get to 40, you'll have that sense. Now 40 seems like it's that age where life begins off at 40, there's sophistication, you'll get to 40 and be like, geez, I'm still such a kid. Like, what is it that is meant? What's this great transformation that's actually meant to happen at this age, you know?
Yeah, and I'm very interested in aging milestones and just aging as a topic. So I read up a lot about, you know, just aging and people's processes. And one of the things that I've been coming across quite a lot from people who are much, much older, people in their 80s or their 70s or 90s, you know, people who write about these things, they always say the same thing. They say, you know, people ask me how it's like being 80 or 90, and they say, I feel the same way. I'm still, like, when I think of myself, I'm still the same girl that I was when I was in my 20s. Like, for me, nothing's changed. It's just the exterior that has changed. So I think we tend to be so hard on ourselves and expect so much, but at heart, we'll always be the same person. Like, you'll always be the same person at heart. You know, life may change, circumstances may change, but you're still you.
And it was such an interesting trip for me to actually go through a book that focuses on age, in the sense that I don't think that I grew up yes, I had that whole admiration, obviously, right, for my older aunts, and who seemed like they had life figured out. They had the money, they had the cars, they were liberal, they could do whatever they wanted, you know. There is that envy, obviously, as a little girl watching. But for me right now, I'm also in my 30s. I often forget how old I am. I don't want to lie to you. Like, when I have to fill out a form, I'm like, oh, and I'm like, how does a person this age actually act? Like, I don't know what I'm meant to be bringing out into the world, because I often don't even know how old I am. So it was quite interesting. It was really interesting.
That's very healthy. I think it's healthy to just go on, like I'm saying, because people who know proper about age say the same thing. It's just a number.
Yeah. That being said, though, I do think, like, this is leading to our next question, that our 20s are most probably a time of independent character molding, right? We make so many mistakes in our 20s. We burn our fingers in the fire so many times trying to carve out who we are and how we should show up in the world, whether or not we know it, right? This is so evident also in the women that you've captured in the book. Each are battling different but absolutely relatable challenges. How was it like creating them individually and then bringing them together?
Yes, I think it was very interesting, because if I view those 4 characters, but there are bits of me and bits of friends of mine, literally, like, so, and with some of them, it's hard to discern where Angela starts and somebody else, this other friend, you know, ends, kind of thing. So, and I think that was a good approach. I think maybe that's why so many people, when that book came out, it's the one book that people relate to a lot, and people say, oh my gosh, I'm this person, I'm Linda, I'm Shade. Well, nobody wants to admit that they Shade, but everybody. But yeah, a lot of people related to the characters. So I think there's that authenticity about those characters, because even though I wrote it quite a while back, I'm still having people come to me and say, oh my gosh, hours. Oh, and I love it the most when a person identifies with somebody who was broken, whose storyline just kind of reflects on how broken they were. And people will say, oh my gosh, I was this person, but I've since kind of overcome that need to hold on to something that doesn't serve me, And they say, like, when I read that book, it just kind of affirmed the work that I've done to get myself to where I am now. And that's always so amazing, when you get things like that.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? You're saying Sade, right? Fine, there are some flaws in Sade that, like, you're like, okay, no. But what I like about her story, for me, is that when you suddenly if you are a child who'd been coddled, right? You were at home all your schooling career, even if you went to boarding school, right? There was some level of supervision. Something does happen when you are just
drowned in freedom, right? When you are in varsity and you do let loose, you do try to figure out what the bounds of this freedom are, but then you grow up. So that's what I like about Sade's character development.
No, that's not the part that people don't want to relate to. I mean, that one, all of us, is the freedom, we go wild.
Yeah.
But I think, I think what people find problematic about her character is that she gets into a period of almost like a denial, like that need to want to embrace perfection and discard who you are, because you feel like, oh my gosh, I made so many mistakes. Now I need to be prim and proper. I need to be this perfect person to make up for all those things. And so you see a lot of red flags, like in the relationship she's got. She sees the red flags, but because she is so determined, to hold on to this purer version of herself, she deliberately kind of overlooks things that for somebody who's as intelligent as she is and who knows herself as much as she does, she just decides, no, it's not happening. It's not happening. This is what's happening,
But isn't that sort of like a human reaction, in the sense that I feel like society does put, and I think it comes out in this book as well, right? Put so much pressure in women to get married, right? So when you do find that potential, it doesn't matter where in society, like for me, I feel like you could have even placed Sade with a bar owner or club owner, right? She would have shaped herself into that reality to be able to keep this thing that she's expected to have, right? It's just so happens that this time it was used as religion. What I'm trying to get at is that not a human reaction after you've had this much pressure on, you must get married, you must settle down, you must have a family, that when you get it, you want to keep it, even if it compromises yourself. Yeah.
That's actually quite a great point. So I wrote the book quite a while back, and so I haven't revisited it. But now that you're saying that is quite an interesting point, because you are right that in marriage especially, and it doesn't matter which society it is, mostly women tend to be the ones that mold, that tend to bend. If you're like this, you're gonna bend that character to fit into what you think is going to make the marriage work. So it's 100% true. I actually didn't think about it that way, and like I said, I haven't read the book in a while, but you're definitely right. That is what normally happens.
And the thing is, even in those situations, you know better. You know for a fact that you also know that you know better. Like you're saying, you're seeing the red flags, etc., but this has become such a trophy, I feel, also, especially in that age. I think that there comes an age you are like, okay, if it's not happening, it's not happening. You are not going to compromise who you are, because your sense of self-actualization and realization has reached a certain level. But I feel like at that age, has become such a trophy, and so many people around you are getting married, they're finding their happily ever afters or whatever the case may be, that when it looks like it's happening for you, you're gonna make it work, because you must also be able to pick that thing off your list,
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, even if you look at who's getting married at any given time, especially in these modern times, it's mostly people in their 30s, early 30s, mid 30s, even late 30s. So it is that phase where it feels like life is beginning to take on this new level of seriousness, of grown-upness, So in your 20s, you can get away with acting a bit childish and making childish decisions. It's allowed, it's even celebrated in some quarters. But 30 is a scary milestone in that it feels like you no longer have an excuse to say, no, but I'm still young, I can still do this, It feels like that cutting line where I am still young, I was still finding myself kind of ends. So I think that's why it's so daunting, especially for me at that time. It felt like, oh my God, I can't be footloose and fancy free. I've got to now start making all those grown-up decisions.
Totally, I hear you. And I felt like there was a strong commentary while reading the book, especially around the power behind Black educated women. We didn't mention Sade's intelligence just now. How important is it that as Black women, we should be able to stand our own as leaders of sectors, as entrepreneurs, as earners of income, right, on our own? Because I feel like this was one of the common threads in these four women's stories, that they were all Black, obviously, and they were all highly educated, and they all wanted to make certain names of themselves in specific sectors.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the one thing that is really incredible about the times that we live in now is that women have much more choice to really grab opportunities and educate themselves. And we know the power that comes with that. I mean, it's an incredible power. And I think you don't appreciate it until you come across women who don't have the agency to exercise that power. So once you sit with women who are stuck in situations, whether it doesn't even have to be just a relationship, but just a situation where a woman just reaches a point where she feels like she's beholden to other people. So if you don't have agency, if you don't have, it doesn't even have to be education, because some women are entrepreneurs with a metric or with a standard 8, but they're able to run a taxi business and run. But that power, it's a life-changing power for women, because we know we may be in 2022, but there's still a large section of men who believe that theirs is to exercise power over a woman. So once the man once you're in his control, whether you're an employee or you are a wife or whatever, and if they think that you don't have the power to say, you know what, I'm done with this, I'm leaving the situation because it doesn't serve me, then that is it. That is it for you. You're trapped as a woman. So I think the biggest, the message that I wanted to bring across there is just the incredible power that you earn by being a mistress of your own domain, not in the sense of having everything, but just in the sense of being able to own your own mind, and have the power to leave situations that are not serving you.
Yeah, that is a very important message, actually. It's a very, because it's like you're saying, it's easy to find yourself trapped. We often hear, obviously, about the romantic relationship trapping kind of situation, but these days, if you listen to a lot of young Black women who feel like they've got much more to offer, the trapping sounds like it's in the workplace, that you feel like, oh my gosh, I am in this place, but I'm highly frustrated. It's very toxic. I could be giving so much more of myself in this scenario, but nothing is giving back. It kind of reminds me of, I want to say it's Nolwazi at the beginning of the book, when she's starting off in the fashion industry, right? She kind of felt like that until she was seen, and then she was given the platform to give more of herself and become bigger, to the benefit of the employer as well. So
and obviously it's easier for a woman to be taken advantage of in those situations, because it can be it's more than just a power play. It can be sexual harassment. You can be made to do things that you're not supposed to do. They're not part of the job description. Even things like being made to make tea when you know that your job doesn't entail that. So it is easy for women to find themselves in those situations of vulnerability. And that age group, that time in life, is also a time that you need to know yourself and own who you are, and be able to stand up for yourself in different circumstances.
And like we've spoken in the last episode about the power of representation. I think that it is quite important that young women, especially if they are going to start reading this book at the stage that you were at when you wrote the book as well, it's important for them to realize that there is hope in those kind of scenarios, like whether it's the workplace, whether it's in romantic situations, there is hope to overcome and to still become the person that you want to become. So representation does then transcend the other things that we've once spoken about. It does go into situations where you can free yourself. Like, it is possible. Look, we have shown you that it is quite possible for people to find themselves, even if it means you freeing yourself to be alone. There's nothing wrong with that as well.
Yeah, and I think the earlier that you're able to make those assertions, to have that agency, the earlier you recognize that, no, I don't have to make this man tea because that's not why I'm here, or this woman tea because this is not why I'm here, unless obviously there's different rules that apply to that situation, or I don't have to do something sexually or otherwise that I don't want to do. The earlier you recognize that, the earlier you cut that kind of toxicity from your life. But the later, because there's women in their 50s and their 40s who are still having those internal conversations of, oh my gosh, do I have a right to say no to the situation or not? And that's like the tragedy of it, that if you don't realize that you've got that power, and not in a disrespectful way, but in a way that says, no, this is not who I am in your life or in these circumstances. I'm not somebody that, because I'm your maid, I'm supposed to grant you sexual favors. I'm your maid, I'm here to clean the house and go. This is not what, so it manifests itself in different circumstances, which is why I'm making all these kind of different examples. But I'm just saying that by virtue of being a woman, you're just much more vulnerable to abuse in so many different ways. And it's very important to have that voice and be able to accept that voice and say, no, this is not me.
Healthy boundaries and understanding your place in every situation, because we perform different roles. Like you're saying, at home you can make tea for your dad, granted, but it's not what you're there for in the workplace. Yeah, I hear you. So
unless you work for your dad. Unless you work for your dad.
And hopefully even your dad will understand we are not at home, we are in the workplace right now.
Very true, very true.
Yeah. So fine. Another theme that does come out in the book is betrayal, right? It stands out on more than one occasion, and at the times that it does come out, it is a harsh betrayal that would unravel lives of what seems to be on the surface tight-knit groups of friends and relationships. What was your intention with this, most particularly around Dikeledi and Nolwazi and the whole Tebogo situation, and also Sade and her husband? This stark betrayal that just you cannot escape in those two scenarios.
Yeah, I mean, because it's a book about growing up does mean sometimes going through like a whole lot of pain and being betrayed by people that you entrust with your life. And I think, so I don't think it would have been right to write a book about transitioning and growing and becoming without talking about the things that actually happen in real life. You will get hurt, you will get betrayed, but it's about how you react to it and how you confront the person, and whether the relationship after the betrayal is worth salvaging, number one, and also how big is a betrayal that cannot be forgiven? You know, like those are the things that we have to always measure. You know, somebody can betray you, and when you relate it to somebody else, they're like, so what did you do? And you're like, yeah, we talked about it, and you forgave him. That's unforgivable. So it's about what you're saying, the boundaries, like what is your personal boundaries? It's important to establish those kind of things for yourself. And sometimes you're not even in a position to establish those boundaries until it actually happens. So sometimes you'll never know that this friend would betray you to that extent until it happens, because you trust them with your life. So when it does happen, it's about, okay, what does this mean? Is this for me a deal breaker? And it's important. That's boundaries again. Is this a deal breaker? Is this like the kind of person I don't want around my space? Because if they can do this to me, what else can they do to me? Or is it about, let me look at the situation holistically and decide whether it's worth me losing a lifelong friendship or whatever it is.
And I think that definitely does come out in these two scenarios. And like you're saying, the people might say certain things are unforgivable, but I do think that there is a universal level of unforgivable. And I think that what kind of transpires in Sade's life, right, between her and the husband does have that element of, okay, like you have to be some kind of a saint for you to think that this you can forgive.
That's what you said.
Yeah. So talking about that specific couple, right, religion is another theme that was explored, especially the idea of leaving one's past behind and redefining oneself to fit into whatever chosen community finds to be righteous, right? Yet at every turn, all these people from Sister Maid of Honor to Sade to Winston have heavy dark secrets that are inescapable. Can you walk us through your intention with putting these specific characters in that type of setting, in that whole church, born again, staunch Christian kind of setting, as flawed as they are?
Yeah, look, I mean, religion is it's part of the fabric of especially Black South African society. I mean, it's not something that you can easily run away from.
Yeah.
And it's something that I respect. I'm a Christian myself. It's something that I respect, even if I were not a Christian, because I believe that once you choose something to center your life around, you know, I can't use a book to bash whatever it is, whether I fundamentally believe in it or not. So it's not an attack on religion, but what it is just a reflection of how, and this happens a lot with women, especially Black women, I've seen it just around me, that, you know, we get to a point where we do want that spiritual enlightenment, you know, but sometimes we want to use it as a clutch, almost as if by embracing religion, we're going to remove all the nastiness, you know, in us, or that we've done in our past, almost as if it's like this magic elixir that just wipes away everything. And then we become this freshly smelling, rosy person, which I don't think is what religion or any kind of spiritual belief system is about. It's about understanding that, you know, you're not a perfect person, you'll always be flawed. But what you're trying to do is to strive towards a better version of yourself as a human being in the world around other human beings. So I think that is the main reflection around the character of Sade, because when you do that, when you try to use religion as a clutch to clean away your sins and wash away and turn you into a new person, other people around you are going to latch onto that. You know, I mean, her husband, gosh, I forgot, Winston obviously caught on to who this person wants to be.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And as a manipulator, or used to be and wants to be, and as a manipulative person, he used that to turn her into kind of his dominant, because he knew that every time he highlights just what a dirty and impure human being she's been, he knew that she would bend to his will, you know. And I think that is the thing, and it happens even in churches and in religious settings, where if somebody can even be a senior, even a pastor, when they latch onto this person is weak and they are damaged, and they feel like they don't deserve you know, redemption, if that person is manipulative, they will use that against you. So I think seeking enlightenment is not about running away or casting off like your old clothes and becoming a brand new version of yourself. It's about accepting what you've been and what you've been through as part of the DNA that shapes the person that you will eventually become, which is now you've decided that you want to be a better person.
And especially because as we can see around Sade's life, the people that you used to know have not forgotten. Do you understand? So you tricking your mind into this thing of forgetting who you used to be, instead of forgiving yourself and saying you did what you could with what you knew. Everybody else around you remembers. Your friends remember that this is who you used to be. Your dark past skeletons want to come into your present. Like, and you are struggling this thing because you have now convinced yourself of a lie, as though those were not the lives you led before, you know?
And I'm laughing because I haven't had a conversation about 30th Candle for so long. But I mean, I'm sorry, but I see so many people like doing that. Like now, I'm in my 40s now. So I see so many people that I've known who are, because now, you know, we're older and we're trying to be better. But like there's this determination to pretend that stuff never happened, that, you know, and
yeah. So everybody else around you will start feeling like they are psycho, because they're like, surely this happened. You surely did this in 2001. You danced on that table. We know, we were all there. We saw you. Come on.
And now they're wearing their uniform, the Methodist.
Yeah. So you must forget about the tables that you danced on. It's rough though. It's rough. And like you say, it's this whole misinterpretation of because I don't even think religion calls for, like you were saying, the perfect person. Religion does not reach out to a perfect human being who must then be perfect until the day they die, because then what happens when you have formulated yourself in your head and made this lie so real that you feel like you're perfect and you are within this religious nest, and then you make an error of principle or of moral, and you will struggle to forgive yourself if within this thing you decide, okay, you know what, today, let's say you used to be a heavy drinker, and then on that one day you decide, you know what, I'm going through the most, I'm going to pour myself a glass of wine, a glass becomes a bottle. The chastisement that will come from you internally will be so heartbreaking before anybody else finds out that this is what you've done, because you have made yourself inhuman by this pursuit of perfection.
Yeah, so I think everything that happens in our lives is a step towards, just a better version of who we are. So the good thing, I think what you can pride yourself in as a person, especially if you're somebody who is seeking spiritual enlightenment, is accepting that I made that mistake and I made that mistake, but first of all, I recognize that was a bad thing that I did, that it was something that I could have chosen a different path, if I knew better. But I don't hate that girl. I don't hate that person. I embrace her because she has led me to this path where I'm coming in knowing, how bad things can get and how bad my decisions can be. But because I've learned from that, I want to make better decisions. But I'm not running away from that person, because sometimes it really gets to a point where even a person dissociates from all of that, which, yes, you can, because you're thinking it's a bad influence. But if you're dissociating from it because now you want new people, you've got new clothes, you are a new Mamfundisi, now we're gonna forget everything that you ever did. It doesn't work. Like you're saying, the first person you're gonna disappoint is yourself, because you'll slip. You may slip into that behavior again. And when that happens, you feel like your whole world is falling apart because you've done so much to escape from that person. You're thinking, I left that person behind. So when you find that this devil or this darker side of you is still there, you become enraged and you're full of self-hate. But that's not what God wants of us, to hate ourselves. He wants us to seek to be better,
Okay, so once again, you've explored the theme of love. So where love prevailed in the story as well. I loved how it unfolded, but there was also a sense of all of us not necessarily finding that forever love as easily. Why will this journey, for example, be a little bit longer for a character? I know that we've been speaking about Sade, but clearly it's her day, okay? For a character such as Sade, right? For a character such as Sade, it seems like her finding that genuine love that it seems Linda is on the brink of, and Dige Lady has found, and Nolwazi is also on the brink of. It seems like for Sade, it may take a little bit longer. Why do you reckon, I should say, that some of us won't find love as easily or as quickly?
Look, it's exactly the things that we've discussed around Sade, that, for you to find somebody who sees you, really sees you and loves you, you've got to come as yourself. You can't try to run away from who you are, because then it means you don't love who you are and expect somebody else to love you. So if you're running away from who you are, you're going to meet people who are seeing what you're projecting to be. So if you want to project to be, this powerhouse and but because you're running away from the vulnerable person that you were, and you always this tough chick and then you're going to present that to this person. And then when you show vulnerability, this person is like, hi, Bo, where's my person that I fell in love with? I don't know, this sniveling, crying, vulnerable mess. So you're gonna, because you attract what you show the world to be. So Sade, it's not so easy for her, because she thought that she would find salvation in redoing her entire self. And so she's not who she is. Like, she's presenting to a love connection. She's presenting something that she's not. So,
completely agree and understood. Okay, so one of the messages, or a strong message that I feel like I took away from the book, is that we let our minds create such monsters, right, of growing up. We work ourselves into this anxiety, and the age when we should accomplish certain things, like we're speaking about, when essentially life actually has no timeline. What matters most is how we live and who we show up as in the present, self-awareness and respect, and the bravery to safeguard those things that we deem to be important. Is this perhaps part of what you wanted to convey to the young people walking into their 30s, that part of it is really just finding what it is that you are, finding what it is that you respect, safeguarding the things that are important to you, and then letting the rest of life happen?
Yeah, it's definitely that. And I think when I was writing it, I didn't realize just how profound that is, because ultimately it's a journey, it's not a race. Mm-hmm. And I think myself personally, I'm one of those people who tend to see life as kind of a red race. I want to do this by this time, do this by this time, do this by this time. But that's not what life is, because as you're saying, things may manifest themselves in our lives at phases or stages that are not the deadlines that we have set for ourselves. And that's just life, because we're not always in control of when light comes into our lives or when this breakthrough happens. So yeah, that is the main thing. It's not a red race, it's just a journey. And yes, chase your goals, have goals, but don't beat yourself up when things don't happen in your timetable.
Yeah.
Because you don't set the timetable, ultimately, unfortunately.
Yeah, true. So this book is peppered with a lot of other themes, which include grief, abuse, teenage pregnancy, secrecy, and broken families. Do you believe in one or other way that women in South Africa, by the time they get into this age, or women in general, by the time they get into their 30s, have experienced one or other of these things?
Yeah, I always think the greatest tragedy about being a woman, especially in South Africa, is that, especially a Black woman in South Africa, is that by the time you reach your 30s, you experience like a very inhumane type of trauma. So by that, I remember I was with a good friend of mine and fellow writer, Upumla, when she was launching Rape, the book. Her book is called Rape. It's a nonfiction book. And I read that book and I couldn't finish it, because I actually realized that, like, when I look around my life, around the girls, like my friends and people that I know, I mean, there's like the fact that you're able to name, okay, this friend, by the time you're 30, this friend has been raped, this friend has been in an abusive relationship, this friend, I mean, those things they're inhuman. Like, not all women go through that, but women in South Africa go through a lot of that. And I think there's just something very ugly about our society, which makes that a reality. And I think it shouldn't be an expectation that as a woman living in a specific country, you must have experienced extreme trauma. It should be an anomaly. It shouldn't be the norm, and the fact that that's a norm in this country is something that we have to fight against every single day of our lives as women, every single day. Yeah.
And it's so interesting, because I was having a conversation with somebody else about the transference of trauma, right? Because now these women, like we are saying, are coming into their 30s, they're wanting to be mothers, they're wanting to be wives, they're going to raise children with that amount of trauma still lodged in them, because it's not like we are given the tools as to how to deal with that trauma, right? So whatever sexual trauma, whatever abuse trauma that we either experienced or witnessed through other people comes into how you decide you're going to parent your children, right? Because it's either you're going to parent them from a place of fear because, well, my neighbor was raped, or my friend was raped in a situation such as this, so my child cannot go close to that situation, or whatever it may be. And it's going to be then hard for us to convert that into something positive for the next generation if we are walking in this fear every single day, Yeah,
that's true. And I mean, like I'm saying, like, I think our kids and our grandkids and our great grandkids to come deserve better, because if a child in a different setting lives in a world where those are not their main concerns, then why should our children have that as something hanging over their heads, you know? So we need to create a better society, and we also need men to be reading these things. We can't, when you read the 30th Candle, read it with your boyfriend or husband, or pass it on, because what's frustrating is that women in this country are always having these conversations, and they're always very bold and open about them. But if we're speaking to each other and we're not involving part of the people that are part of this equation, an important part of the equation, then it feels like we can speak until, you know, the cows come home, or whatever the old saying was, but it doesn't feel very constructive.
Completely, I hear you. So I'm going back, because like you're saying, sometimes your books are quite character driven, right? My fascination, I think, so far has also been on the type of male antagonists that you create, right? The antagonists in this book, I felt, were the ones that stood out were Tebogo, because he was like the poster boy for hashtag men are trash. And then you've got Winston, right? Who is a darker version of antagonist. And I want to understand what happens. And it's also, for me, I'm really fascinated with the whole, you create, I'm going to say monsters in inverted commas, right? You create these monsters per se, right? That have to live in your brain for you to be able to put them on paper. And how do you then live with them while they're still alive in your head, and then let them go when you have to let them go? Because I can't imagine like a Tebogo or a Winston roaming my mind after I'm done writing the book. Like, they must get out, they must get their eviction notice, and they must leave immediately. So I don't know how you
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no. The thing is, as I said, with book clubs and with people who've read this book, Tebogo seems to be the one who doesn't want to take the eviction notice and get the heck out of it, because it seems so many women have so many Tebogos in their lives. It's crazy. So so yeah, I mean, I normally can't wait to, no, let me not lie, when I'm writing the book, you know, these characters are so ingrained, and they take what feels like permanent residence in my head. And I have to welcome them in, because I need to understand who Tebogo is. Because if I can't wait to get rid of him, chase him out, then it means that I run the risk of not making him a true, you know, multi-dimensional character. So Tebogo will send the roses, Tebogo will come and pick up the kid, because he's not all bad. He still does the things. That's what makes him get away with the trashy stuff that he does, because when he does the nice things, it feels like, okay, wow, I didn't know they still made them like that, you know. And that's typically who a Tebogo would be. So you can't chase them out too soon, because you need to know them very well. And what I do, which is kind of a horrible thing, is that when I'm writing a character, especially somebody like as horrible as he is quite commonplace, Tebogo, is that I start noticing that Tebogo is like in real life, and I start, you know, just picking up some mannerisms. So maybe before he didn't have glasses, and then I see a Tebogo with glasses, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this Tebogo is probably getting away with his Tebogo-ness, because he's got glasses on, which makes him even look more, you know, unthreatening, you know. So no, it's important, especially with the antagonists, because they're not necessarily likable characters. So it's important to stay with those characters, so that you don't give us somebody that's just so ridiculously bad that, you know, nobody's like this in real life. Or if they were like this, they wouldn't even be able to get somebody like Sade, you know, or get somebody or keep somebody like Mikeledi for that long.
Yeah. But what about the extreme types of, because I feel like Winston is on the extreme. I'm not saying he doesn't exist. Like, I could easily believe that a person like that, or there are women like Sade who are trapped in situations like that and are unaware. I can easily believe that. But the things that he does and the things that he's done, I'm sorry.
It reminded me of a friend of mine. Listen, this friend of mine read the 30th Candle before she met me. And then she met me, then we became friends. And then so I got to know, we became like proper friends. And then she said to me, oh my gosh, I've just discovered my uncle is a Winston.
That is big, hey? That is very big. That is very, very big, because the thing is, it's so easy. I feel like after living for quite a bit, right? You don't, especially on the surface, when you really don't want to really get to know a person, it's very easy to take a person at face value, right? You present yourself as this lamb in wolf in lamb's whatever sheep's skin, right? And we believe you because we really don't want to know you personally. So if this is who you say you are, then this is who you say you are. Then next thing, one Sunday, I'm opening the Sunday Times, and there you are doing things that are opposite to what you said you were. I mean, no. And even your own wife does not know you like that. She knows parts of your horrible character, but she does not know that. Nah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the surprising, that's the shocking thing. And I think it's easier, in some ways, it's easier to deal with, somebody who's not a wolf in sheep's clothing, somebody who, like, for instance, I spoke to you sometime about the psychopath serial killer that I used to go see. So somebody like that, I know, not go see as in date, by the way.
No, you did not date.
No, for research, I was interviewing these people, but this person. But the point is that sometimes it's easier to deal with the devil that you know than the one that you don't, because, and also, let's face it, there's more. We were talking about psychopaths, and there's more people who present themselves as, paragons of virtue, who are hiding their narcissism or their extreme psychopathic or antisocial behaviors. And most of the time, it's people, they tend to lean towards the kind of professions or occupations that would let them get away with it. Yeah. So there's a lot of, for instance, that we discover, oh my gosh, this person did this and did this, and it's like, but he's my pastor, or he's my whatever, or a school principal, or whatever it is. So I think we would be shocked, just as human beings, to know how many people that we hold in high esteem, especially because of the positions they occupy in society, that are actual psychopaths.
And I also think that with this particular, these two antagonists, what was also quite interesting to me is that they were doing things that we would find, let's say, morally incorrect, but they were thriving in their businesses, in their workspaces, etc. And for me, I found it difficult to see a woman who, let's say, was playing a similar role, right, being immoral, actually also thriving in the workspace, because I feel like we don't have that sharp knife, or like our issues don't cut like a hot knife through butter, if you get what I'm trying to say. We kind of,
I think remember also, women get labeled quicker than men get labeled. So a woman who not even on the border of psychopathy or narcissism, a woman who like becomes very hard when things don't go her way immediately, before she even does something extreme, she's labeled a bitch.
Yeah.
So they never, so there's no way as a woman you would get to cultivate that whole thing. It's very rare, unless you are a real psychopath, where you're really pretending to be this amazing person, but you're just evil inside. So with women, it's harder to get away with it, because immediately you're in a position of power. Before you even open your mouth, somebody has already called you a bitch. Before you maybe they've just looked at the suit that you're wearing, or you never smile very much, they're like, oh bitch, so it's harder for women to get away with such things.
Yeah. And maybe it's also telling, because maybe it's also a weapon used to kind of tame you or bring you down, not allow you to become what it looks like you could become, right? By giving you all these labels that might interrupt your flow and your understanding of where you should be. But most of the time, though, the book did give me that whole clap once, I'm a daughter moment. Every single time I came across these particular antagonists, I was like, no, in fact, men do want us dead. They do not want us to flourish in life. Like, the best thing you must do is become a nun, leave these men alone, go find you.
Bad guys, you are giving men a bad rap.
No. Every time, these two.
Huh?
I'm saying at least we had Kennedy, okay? At least we had Kennedy. I'm talking about specifically these two. Every time I was like, no, thank you very much, no. Yeah.
Yeah, those are your men, hey? I've seen these people operate in real life.
They're probably in the majority.
For them. Huh?
I'm saying they are probably in the majority, because I'm thinking of Kennedy, right? And how he comes in. No, but even in your story, they are the majority, because Kennedy, who Linda finds, right, is a rare find. A man like that is not he knows how to be vulnerable. He knows how to show his soft side. He knows when he needs to be stern. He knows how to collect his woman when she's falling apart. Then you have Tebuho, who, when he thinks he's gonna be busted, he does the extreme biggest thing ever that you've been waiting for all your life, and you forget that, you know,
in real life. My goodness.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. They're probably in the majority.
Like, I'm already thinking of all the lists of different scenarios just recently that I've heard of. Yeah.
So they are probably in the majority.
It's an indictment, I think, on South African men, because why you're bad, hey?
Especially in that, I feel like, especially in that generation or age group, right? When you are also, because also men, they do go through those age milestones, right? Where they are finding themselves. They probably want to separate their player lives to their more serious lives, to their whatever, and then they meet these women who are their age, probably, who want more than what they are ready to give, and they're like, okay, I like Angela, I'm not gonna let go of Angela, but I'm also not gonna let go of this. Exactly. Exactly. Let's dribble them a little bit until we find our feet. Let's see what happens, you know. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's true.
It's true. It's very true.
Yeah. Okay, fine. We're at the end of our chat. And as always, we're always looking for some kind of recommendation. You've already given us the 3 hardest, I feel, recommendations that you could have given us when we spoke about Red Ink. So this time around, because this is your second time on the podcast, we're just going to ask for one recommendation. And that is the book that you recently finished.
Oh my gosh, I have to find, I need to recommend this book. Well, it's a thriller, and I hadn't read a good thriller in a while.
Yes.
And I remember I posted it on my Instagram, so I'm actually going to find it. It's not South African, it's not African. I know you're focusing mostly on African titles.
That's okay. Yeah. For the recommendations, that's fine, because we do need to read diversely as well. So that is important.
Okay, so if you're looking for just the perfect thriller, escapist, just holiday vibes, Easter, whatever holiday you're going through. It's called The Guest List.
The Guest List.
It's by it's by Lucy Foley. So it's kind of an atmospheric thriller. So the surprises and the tension are built as much around the characters as the environment in which they're in, which is always quite interesting. So yeah, that's my recommendation. The Guest List by Lucy Foley.
And it's a quick read. Do you feel like it's a fast read? Okay.
Yeah, no, it's a fast and pacey. If you've read Red Ink and you're feeling like, or even the 30th Candle, you want that pace again, you just want to escape, that's the book I recommend.
Okay. Great. Thank you so very much, Angela. This was quite enjoyable. Thank you for joining us for yet another discussion on your books. We do have a few more discussions with you. We are enjoying your books. And like I had mentioned to you privately, one of your books is our pick for the Vuvu Vena Reads Book Club over on Facebook this year, that being Black Widow Society. And I've heard great things about it, so I cannot wait. I really can't wait. So I look forward to that.
Dig in. I enjoyed the chat as well. And hi to all your readers. I hope you keep reading African fiction and non-fiction. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bye.
All right. Cheers. Bye.
That's all for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Any engagement on any of my platforms means a lot to me. And if you'd like to support any of the work that I do, kindly buy me a coffee. Details are in the show notes. And until next time, remember, every page turned is something learned. Keep turning pages. I'd love to hear your thoughts about today's episode. So why not search for me on social media? On Instagram, I'm Vena_reads. On Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, I'm Vena_reads. And you can also find me on my website, which is www.vuvuvenareads.com. And until next week, I really do love you guys. Bye now.